I can hardly believe that I've had this guy for so long and never did a review of him, but it's probably because I got him around the time just before I started my YouTube channel, so not everything that I had beforehand got reviewed. So better late than never, I suppose. He is really cool. It's all three. It's Ginrai. Well, I guess four if you want to count little Ginrai. Then it's when he's in his cab, and then Super Ginrai and God Ginrai when combined with God Bomber. Yeah, it's a really cool figure. Got him before I even moved to California, so that means I've had him for over 4 years, and I just don't know why I never did a review of him. Because he is pretty cool. I mean, he's very, very chonky G1, because, you know, he is G1. Now, this is not an original. This is like from, I think, a 2000 reissue or something. So still significantly old, but so cool. I love God Bomber. Well, God Ginrai, like the whole trailer setup. And I love how God Bomber can be like a separate truck at the same time, as well as just being a continuation of Ginrai's trailer. And this is just, there's a lot going on here. I think it's really cool. Let's see what order to go in. I'm thinking let's start with Ginrai, or not Ginrai, God Bomber. So God Bomber is just this little trailer, lots of chrome plastic, which I will admit I don't really care for as much. I mean, it does look cool. It's just chrome fingerprints so bad, and it's so reflective. And then you can see the 3 little seats inside, or at least 2 of them, and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's no windows, like actual like plastic in there. It's just open. There are some stickers. I'm pretty sure most of these stickers I installed. There are sticker sheets that came with it, because this is a complete set, which I think is really cool. But this is pretty much the basic trailer. There is another configuration you can do where you end up using one or both of these guns, and then you like put the on if you don't care about having well, actually no, they do need to be up, so you kind of have to flip them on opposite sides, but you can put these right on here, and then apparently you put like this right there, and then one of those guns up there, and then you kind of just have the little Ginrai, the engine of the truck, on here, and I guess driving God Bomber around. This does fire out. I do believe there are 2 other missiles that can be in there, but I don't have them out right now. I think they're still on the tree. But God Bomber is pretty simple. Also has a tendency to fall apart if you're not careful. At least these tend to stay tabbed in properly, but just untab that, take off the front, and just hollow chrome plastic with a with this on here. I can't remember if I don't believe this flips in for the combined mode. I don't think there's enough space for it, so it just kind of hangs out there. But that's essentially the back for God Bomber's robot mode. And these are the legs, obviously. Just pop those out, flip out his feet, which are only used for God Bomber's robot mode. And you can see right there, that's a leg. And he's a total parts former. Like, there's no doubt about that. He is an exclusively a parts former, but considering he's power armor, essentially, I'm not going to complain too much about that. And then this is the front of his torso. Flip out his head like that, which I think looks pretty cool. It obviously doesn't rotate, it's just a solid piece of plastic. And then there you can see the original mold detail from 1988. And then the legs just peg in here, then arms, let's make sure the right side, don't peg in there quite yet. Take these, take his wings, and they peg in like so, and like so. And then you peg the arms into here. I will say one downside to transforming them, if you'll notice, there is some rubbing of the plastic, so eventually these pegs will become so loose that they're not really going to stay on without, you know, I guess nail polish or something else. But put those on, and then put this on over here. And I will admit it does not stay on as well as it does in the vehicle mode, because it's connecting somewhere else. Come on, there we are. Or wait, no, actually that might be the same. No, actually I think it is the same spot. But as you can see, there's this right here. I guess maybe I could have had it flipped in there for this one, but it doesn't really matter because that's on his back. And then you take the rocket launcher and you just peg it in right there. And there you have God Bomber. He is pretty cool, but he does feel very flimsy. He doesn't feel extremely cheap necessarily, but he does have an element of cheapness to him in a sense, just because of well, just the sheer fact that he's held together just by friction pegs. Doesn't really have any real articulation, just pegs up here that you can move around, and that's pretty much it. But he still is pretty cool, especially when you have him standing next to Super Ginrai. And that brings us to Ginrai himself. Let's go ahead and tilt this down and pop him out of his cab, which can be a bit tricky. It's almost always tricky. That's one of the things that I don't like about this, especially when you have to rely on it to well, you don't have to rely on it to transform Ginrai. It's just there's a mechanism in there that this pushes, but there we are. I will say that with all the chrome, I do believe this right here, the front bumper, is I'm pretty sure this is still just chrome plastic, but the cab right here is actually metal. The Power Master Optimus Prime, if I remember correctly, is just plastic, not metal, so he feels a lot lighter than the Takara version. The smokestacks are metal, they're not just plastic, which is also really nice. No, they're not metal. I'm getting it mixed up with the third-party one, which does have a decent amount of metal, and that will be in a future review. And there'll definitely be a couple comparisons. I don't know if I'm going to do comparisons of every single component, because that would be a lot, but just overall things. But this is really cool, though. Let's see, but yeah, enough about the truck. Let's go on to him. He is very, very simple. There's his face and arms. You just rotate down, and there you have his little robot mode. Then he has little arms that you can rotate out. And then he has a big old engine on his back, but I guess it's better than having a giant face on his back like the Headmasters. But yeah, that's pretty much it for him. So to get Ginrai transformed, see right in here, if you see this little button, that's what releases the waste, because if you were to do it without pressing that, you would break the mechanism, you'd break the toy. But press that in, so that'll just press that button in, and then you just pull that down, rotate the feet, which are on very stiff ratchets, and it's very sturdy. I do believe I ordered this guy on eBay, and I don't think he was unopened, but he didn't have any of the stickers applied, and if he had been transformed, it'd only been like maybe once or twice tops. But get that, and then flip up his head, and there you have Ginrai in his robot mode, or his transector, or whatever you want to call it, but his robot body in its robot mode, and it looks really cool. I love the blue eyes. I just love all the detail. A lot of this is stickers, and oh boy, that one's starting to come up a little bit, but there's stickers for the thighs, the knees, right here, here, Autobot emblem, and on the forearms. And that's pretty much it for the stickers. The rest is just like chrome. I think that these are also stickers right there. And see how they look side by side. He's obviously significantly smaller. And then, per instructions, you can give him one or both of these guns. But as you can see, they're still kind of big for him. And also, he can't go any higher than that because his arms, shoulders do not have any articulation. The only articulation he really has is knees, but that's together with that. And then I guess you could, I don't know, do something like that and maybe get him to stand if you're lucky. Rotate his feet forward, I guess, but he is definitely very, very stiff. And the only articulation you really get is just the elbows. Like, he's in some ways worse than God Bomber, because at least God Bomber, you can move his shoulders up a little bit so you can move up the gun. But at least he's not going to fall to pieces like God Bomber might. Alright, so I guess may as well go ahead and get him back into his truck mode, or at least an approximation of it. And then, yeah, let's just curl him up essentially into a box. And this is what we need him in for Super Ginrai. So let's go ahead and take the trailer, take this down a bit. Let's go ahead and take off this, take off these guns, and then now you just have the trailer. Oh, and one more thing about the trailer, which is pretty cool, and this is also a good storage place for his combined head, which obviously does not store anywhere in the vehicle mode. I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in up there because that is where that head goes. But it is, I do believe you could maybe fit a small little car in there. Nothing too big because it is pretty shallow, but I do like that they actually include the option to make it look like an actual trailer. Now, this does have a little base mode, so I think I'll go ahead and try to show that off real quick. So, go ahead and lift this up, flip, flip, and then this will go down like that. Split the legs up. Man, it's very stiff ratchets. I will admit sometimes I'm scared that something's gonna break potentially. And then rotate the arms. You're gonna have you can pretty much have them however you want, but I do believe they go up like that. And then you can let's see if I remember right, the instructions, you have the black guns up here, but it doesn't really matter. You can put them wherever you want, whatever you think looks best. And then, and I should have done this first, but you flip that forward, flip that out, flip this around, and then flip this out. And I must say that this base mode is much easier to get into than the third-party version that I have. You can also flip this up if you want to be more like a tower, but this is so much easier to get into than the third-party one. The third-party one is such a pain. Don't get me wrong, the KFC, I do believe it's KFC, yeah, KFC, Ginrai, Super Ginrai looks really cool, but oh man, it is such a pain. It's one of those that it's like it's probably gonna stand in my shelf in like combined Super Ginrai mode, but not gonna be messed with other than that because his joints are bad. They're loose. It's not that my copy's bad, it's just the design. For whatever reason, they gave him very weak knee joints and a couple of other areas. I'll talk about that in a future review, but man, he is bad. And then of course, well, if I wanted to put him back in robot mode, I probably should have held off on that, but you can stand him up back here. The instructions actually say to have that right there, and I guess you can put it between his legs so he's more stable. But if you, like I said, if you want it for another tower or another gun, you can have it rotated however you like. But this is very basic base. Definitely a better base than Star Convoy, because at least there is no face staring at you with hands poking out. This is just a basic base with 3 little windows that I don't know that you could be looking out of as it's being in a command center, but it's fun. Let's go ahead and take all the guns off and just get these flipped back around. And I forgot to flip. How silly of me. How silly. There we are. Alrighty. And then this is, of course, will be his back. And I love how stiff this is because it actually holds that in place. Although it's not really going to flop all over the place like KFC. KFC, this is all super loose on KFC. So it's like, let's just, yeah. It's like whack-a-mole with that guy. There we are. And then just collapse this back down. Now this is where I'm gonna say where it's gonna be very obvious where he is just pretty much a brick. Not as bad as Star Convoy, but still pretty bad as far as like brickness is concerned. But yeah, that's pretty much what you need to do for robot. But let's go ahead and just peg on the shoulder guns that he's known for. Just peg those in, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. Whoa, there we are. And then, let's see, and peg that in, and peg that in. Now we have him fully armored up, and then let's just go ahead and drop him in. And now we have Super Ginrai or Power Master Optimus Prime, whichever one you want to go with. And looks like he's not sitting in there quite right, but it's in there good. It's just like, there we are. But his head is very big head with relatively small arms and chonky, weird feet. Like, it doesn't look bad. It's just, well, G1, and also his head is probably more close to proportion of actual human head than most Transformers. Transformers just have huge hands and feet in comparison to their heads, and yet it looks perfectly natural. And then when you give them more natural human proportions, they look so weird. But that's the big thing, is that his head just seems a little bit big. But then again, he's also combines to become God Ginrai. But they're about the same size in height. And then when you combine them, he doesn't get significantly taller, but he is a little bit taller and very blocky still. The arms, of course, are on a stiff ratcheting. He has nothing at the elbows, nothing at the wrist. Like I said, G1. Nothing at the head. Can't really rotate it. The legs can only go side to side. They can't rotate forward because, you know, it's just solid plastic. Not going to complain about that because, like I said, G1. He's there to look cool and not do much while doing it. He's, I guess, for nostalgia type stuff, even though I didn't grow up with Super God Master Force, I do love the anime, and I just love the old toys from the G1 continuity. And then if you want to do it, you can have, if you want to kind of give him a more dynamic pose, you can have his legs splayed out a little bit, and then you can rotate his arms like that. So that is a way that you can make him less brick-like, and it actually doesn't look half bad. So let's just put those legs back down, move him off to the side, take God Bomber, take that off. And then essentially we're just going to completely take him apart into his component pieces and just hope that, I don't know why I was going there with that, but yeah, he just goes to pieces, and then you flip the feet in, flip the feet in, and then that's why it can help to have the legs open just a little bit, but then he, this tabs right in there, and then just clips on, and then tabs in, and clips on, and there we can see he's getting a bit taller. And also with the way God Bomber's attachments work, it does give him the stability so that when his legs are splayed, he's not going to tilt forward like as in Super Ginrai mode. So this actually does work quite well for Ginrai. So take these guns off, take these guns off. You don't have to slide his hands in, that just happened, but then take God Bomber's arms and just peg them over, and then he has new fists. Peg in. There we are. Actually, you probably should have there, and so it'll sit out, so it'll sit a little more flush, but it doesn't get in the way that much. So it's personal preference as to whether or not have his hands out, but it does kind of fill in that gap a little bit. And then this will be his backpack. It does peg into here, so it might be. It's generally a good idea to attach these first, because if you try, because it doesn't stay on the greatest, those pegs don't hold on very tightly. It does work, it's just not the greatest. And then if I remember right, this will be reaching around and then tabbing back in. No, I'm wrong on that. It's just it kind of clips over that, and then this will flip up and then go back down over that, and just peg right on in and hope it stays in. Then rotate that down, that'll help keep it steady. And then let's see, rotate us back around. Now he has little itty bitty wings, and this like I said, it'd be nice if you could put it on him with that in, but it's not going to work that way. But you just leave that down, and then you just will tab, or just kind of just, come on, how does it go again? Yes, there's a clip right down there that should clip over the bumper, and then it just sits on him like that, and then you just kind of tuck that in right there. And then let's see, these big guns are supposed to go in his hands instead of his shoulders, as obviously there's nowhere to plug them in now. Just plug those in, and then these are supposed to plug into the wing. So I probably actually should have done that before I decided I was going to peg that in, but there we are. I got the guns on the back, and here, and then the final piece to the puzzle, our combined mode, is putting this gun right up there. And now we have God Ginrai in the combined mode, and my oh my, he is impressive. I mean, some might say that, well, it's so blocky box, he looks stupid or silly or something like that. Someone might say that. That isn't a G1 toy fanatic or whatever, but I mean, obviously, if you have his legs together like this, and then, I don't know, arms like that, he does look kind of lame. But even then, he still looks cool in the G1 sense. But when you do this, he's just so imposing. I mean, especially for a G1 figure. Like, I mean, obviously, he's nowhere near as big as Fortress Maximus from the from the Headmasters cartoon, but he is towering. He's bigger than Metroplex, and probably about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger than Triptychon as well. Like, he is just a big guy, really big, and I just love the way he looks. Even though, because as long as you can do a somewhat cool pose like this, I mean, that is more than what most G1 figures can do. So I just love this guy. He is really cool, and I was so glad I was able to find him online, because that was around the time I was really getting into the anime of Transformers. Like, was back a few, like I said, about 4 years ago. I was expecting to end this review on a really light-hearted, very fun note. And as I was pointing out with when I was actually putting together God Ginrai, this happened off camera as I was getting him back just into Super Ginrai. But remember how I said look up here, let's see how like it's kind of worn down looking a bit. This one's still good, but the other one, when I pulled it off, when I was getting it ready to come off, it just sheared off. And the piece was stuck in here, and I did my best to get it out, but since it's kind of stuck in there, I tried to get it out, tried to pull it out with pliers and stuff without pushing it in further, and then it's like, alright, I'm gonna have to, and then I tried something else to try to wedge it in there to get it stuck so I could twist and pull, but it just ended up getting it shoved in there a bit further, so I ended up still going more and more extreme measures to try to get it out, and eventually managed to get it out, but by completely shattering essentially from the inside by just twisting and wearing away. I had to try to pull it out, and then it shattered and came out in pieces. I'm guessing, because this is, like I said, this was, even though it's not an original, it's still from 2000, so I'm starting to guess that maybe the plastic is just starting to get a little old, and so that sheared off. So God Ginrai is going to be out of commission for a while until I can find a way to jury rig a mock 5mm port that I could put on there, like maybe, I don't know, like a metal screw that I can screw in there and maybe get to the approximate size of 5mm and just plug it in there. So yeah, God Ginrai is pretty much out of commission. Obviously God Bomber out of commission, and this happened before this even broke off. I had something else break, and it's probably because I was doing it a little bit improperly, but this right here, as you can see, I put a note to myself so that I don't mistakenly try using it again. As you can see, there is super glue on there. I'm going to try to maybe fill that hole up with some resin or something to strengthen it, and then if I have to, file it down so that it doesn't stick out too much. But as I was taking this off of his foot, this just shattered into 3 pieces, and without that, it will not stay on the bottom of the foot. Once it's fully dry, I'll probably put it back together with the other half, but of course, as always with older figures, use caution. I do my best to not be hard on my figures as a general rule of thumb. I have never seen myself as being really hard on this guy, but as you could see in earlier on the video, getting Ginrai, the legs for Ginrai positioned for robot mode, like the feet, is so stiff, so there are some issues that you can't really help even on older figures. And I suppose I could have tried gluing it on the arm piece on to that piece and then pulling it off, but realistically it just would have sheared off again, because even if I did wait, say, like 24 hours for it to cure, and then I would also risk getting that piece stuck in there permanently, and then I wouldn't be able to at least put him into Super Ginrai configuration, because so far I haven't had any problems with the trailer. As upsetting as it was to have the old plastic break on God Bomber's arm, I hope to find a replacement at some point. That would be very much appreciated if I could. If not, oh well, it's not the end of the world. But because I do like God Ginrai, or Super Ginrai, a little bit more than God Ginrai, although God Ginrai is really cool. But yeah, this is a really cool set. It's just so unfortunate that had to break. And it's a really cool set if you can get a hold of it for a reasonable price. But I would also say that the Masterpiece variant is also probably a really good one to get your hands on. That will also be in a future review. So if you like this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. And until next time, have a good one, everyone.